everyone, my name is Katie and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about 10 songs I couldn't live without. So if I were stranded on an island and I could only bring an MP3 player loaded up with 10 songs, these would be those songs. So since I'm mostly a fan of metal, this is going to be a metal and metal adjacent list. I might name a couple of honorable mentions that fall more along the lines of rock or maybe some other genre, but this is pretty much like my top 10 metal songs. The first song on the list is You Will Know My Name by Arch Enemy. So this came out in 2014 with the War Eternal album. It was the first album that featured Alyssa on the vocals instead of Angela, and this was a really crucial point in my life. I was 17 years old. I was pretty lost in life, had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I had no real ambitions or inspirations. And when I first saw the You Will Know My Name music video, I felt so powerful. I watched Alyssa and all of her amazing talent. Her vocals are just insane. But it's not just that. She didn't just inspire me in that way. The lyrics of the song speak to me so much. The real meaning of the lyrics is that you can prove your doubters wrong, you can prevail and do whatever you put your mind to, no matter what other people say. This was a huge turning point when I realized I was in control of my life and what happens to me, and I can put myself out there in the world and accomplish what I want and no one can stop me. And I wanted to be just like Alyssa, this just badass woman. I wanted to be just like her back then, and 10 years later I still do. I'm not gonna lie, that's around the age that I had this just sort of like fuck you mentality. It was like the beginning of my villain era, not in the way that I wanted to pursue evil, but I just wanted to take control of my own life and hold my own power for the first time. I didn't really have a lot of people in my life that made me feel like these sorts of things were possible, so it was really important to hear these sorts of lyrics coming from someone I looked up to so much. Not to mention the music is just badass anyways, and I think it's Jeff Loomis on the guitar, amazing guitar work. I just love melodeath as a genre, and I think Arch Enemy is probably my favorite band in that realm. Next up is Spirit Crusher by Death. Now, any Death song and any Death album is just like a 10 out of 10 for me. Always perfect execution. I love the technical aspect of it. It's just super badass progressive death metal. And of course, I love Chuck Schuldner's voice. I love his voice the most on The Sound of Perseverance, which is kind of a hot take. A lot of people don't really like that album as much as their earlier albums, but I just love the way his vocals sound on this one. They feel more emotional and just raw. I love the high pitch, how you can't really tell if it's a woman or a man screaming for some reason. That's just my shit. But what I really like, once again, is the lyrics. So the song is about a spirit crusher and just something that brings you down, and it's really open-ended and vague to the point where you could apply Spirit Crusher to anything that you want. Anything in your life that's burdening you can be a spirit crusher. The song is about holding on and not letting the spirit crusher get you down, and it's just overall a bone-chilling song with the lyrics and the sound and Chuck's screeching. It's just perfect. If I was on an island, I would most definitely have to have at least one Candlemass song on my playlist. It was hard for me to pick my favorite Candlemass song. It's gonna have to come between Solitude and Bewitched. I'm leaning a little bit more towards Bewitched though. That one just feels so theatrical and just epic and so stunning. This one isn't necessarily about the inspirational aspect, it's just more of like a storytelling thing, and I think if I was on an island somewhere, I would want this sort of like outlet, this sort of fantasy fictional type of music. I need something like that on my playlist, and Candlemass is perfect for that. I could listen to any Candlemass song for eternity. I'm also a big fan of musical theater, and I feel like Candlemass is exactly what musical theater music would sound like if it had the metal aspects and all the distortion and all of that. When I'm listening to Bewitched, I always picture that it's the Phantom of the Opera singing that song to Christine. It's so fitting to the story, and you know, I could pick a song from the Phantom soundtrack, but this is metal only, so I'm gonna have to go with Candlemass. So I knew I would have to choose at least one Metallica song for this list, and oh my gosh, choosing one is absolutely so miserable for me. I was gonna pick To Live Is To Die because I feel like it says so much without having any lyrics. The song feels like this weird, like bittersweet, almost acceptance of death and that it's inevitable, and it kind of brings you like a peace about it. It's just a gorgeous song all around. I love the harmonizing guitars and just the whole thing. But I actually chose a different Metallica song over this one. I chose Dyer's Eve. I think out of Metallica's entire discography, Dyer's Eve might be my favorite. First of all, And Justice for All is my favorite album. It has the same guitar tone and style from that album. It's my favorite drumming work by Lars, but what really gets me once again is the lyrics. The lyrics are literally my life story and my childhood put into a song. Like, me and James Hetfield have a very similar upbringing. It's so therapeutic to hear one of my heroes like James singing about his trauma, and he relates to me so much. This is one of the most powerful aspects of music, is when someone you look up to so much can be like, hey, me too, I'm going through this too. That is just amazing. You could probably even say this is my favorite Metallica song of all time. I don't necessarily think it's objectively their best song, but for me personally, it all comes down to that emotional aspect. It's their most relatable for me. And with that aside, it's one of their best thrash songs. And like I said, Lars on the drums in this with that double bass is out of this world. I cannot believe at one point we had Lars Ulrich drumming like that. And I really couldn't choose To Live Is To Die, because I'm not going to go on an island and never hear James Hetfield's voice ever again. James as a lyricist has just helped me a lot. He's super vulnerable in all of his music, and I love his writing. I think he is like the heart and soul of Metallica. As important as all the other members are, he means so much to me. And like, he does this speech during Fade to Black in their live shows, and both of the times that I've heard him do that, it actually inspired me to keep going. He goes on this whole "you're not alone" speech, and it sounds corny, but when you're there in the moment, it really does mean a lot. Like, so many people are hearing his words, and it's probably helping them, even if it's just to go on for another day. The fact that his words hold so much power is just mind-blowing. So the next song is Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath by none other than Black Sabbath. So I've always been a why type of person. I'm always asking why, I'm always questioning things, I always want answers to every aspect of life. One of those people that I can't just sit there and think normal thoughts. I'm always like, what is the meaning of life? And I do everything so deeply. And this song, this song means so much to me, because I feel like it portrays my mind perfectly about how I'm always asking questions why, and there's authority figures or people in your life that want to keep the truth from you, either to protect you or to manipulate you, but you're always searching for the answers, and you feel sometimes like lonely or depressed, feeling like you're never really going to figure it all out. The song is kind of vague, so it's another one that you could apply to any topic in your life, whether it be like a religion or just existence as a whole. It can mean so many things. Ozzy Osbourne has always been such a great lyricist. He knows how to make things emotional and vulnerable, but vague enough that people can put their own meaning onto it, and so many people can relate to it. Plus, I just really like this era of Black Sabbath. I think this might be my favorite Black Sabbath album. I think it has some of Iommi's best riffs, and I just really like the sound from this one. It has this weird nostalgia for me. All the music from this time period, I don't know if it's the production quality and the sort of like muffled sound that it has, something about it makes me feel nostalgic for a place I never even lived in. So this next song isn't so deep and serious. This is just because I really like the way it sounds and all of that. So this is going to be At the Graves by King Diamond from the Conspiracy album. So this is my favorite King Diamond song. King Diamond is one of my favorite people on the planet. Absolutely love him. And the reason I chose this one is, first of all, it's just a great build up. It's the first track on the album, so you have this really cool intro moment, and it's just got this spooky Halloween vibe. It's got this amazing story. I think King Diamond is one of the best storytellers ever. He's really good at putting fiction into music. So this one isn't one that's necessarily relatable, but it's kind of like watching a movie through music. Like, I can like picture things whenever I'm listening to King Diamond. Plus, I just love what he can do with his voice, like how he goes from that falsetto to that super low deep tone. Like, when I was younger, this is embarrassing, but I used to think Merciful Fate had two vocalists because he sounds so different depending on what he does with his voice. I'm just a big fan of all things spooky, and I know if I was on an island somewhere, I would have to have at least one spooky track. I guess Candlemass kind of fits in that, but this is a little bit different. It's just that really corny Halloween sound. So I decided I did want to have an instrumental on my list, and it's not going to be To Live Is To Die. Like I said, I chose Dyer's Eve, so I chose a different instrumental by a different band, and this is going to be Musical Death by Testament. To me, Testament is one of the better thrash bands. I think they do deserve to be in the Big Four. I know that's like a huge conversation at this point, but this one is just so short and sweet. It says a lot. It gives me a lot of the same feelings as To Live Is To Die, but it's not as drawn out. This one is just like soul piercing. I feel like the guitars are actually speaking. It's another one that just says a million things without a single word. I think this would be the song on the playlist where I just kind of turn off my brain, I relax, I don't have to focus on any lyrics, I just feel the music, and it's a little breather in between songs. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I like to get a little bit depressed on purpose. I don't know what it is. It's like therapeutic. You let out all of your anxiety and stress and depression, while you're listening to the song, it's like in a controlled environment, right? So you can like let go of it later. I don't know. But my point is, I like to listen to sad songs sometimes. So I needed to have a sad song on the list. And by sad, I mean really sad. So this one is going to be Anesthesia by Typo Negative. This song is just so real. I swear Peter Steele was so great with his lyrics. He was definitely a disturbed soul. He had a lot of things going on, a lot of traumas. And this song speaks to me so much. I could listen to it over and over and over. I do all the time. The song is really about just going through so much. You've been through so much hell that you just are numb. The whole thing is I can't feel anything. That is just extremely relatable. Probably not good. And I think this song is more in terms of like a relationship ending and he's just like completely done, doesn't know what to do. He's just numb to everything. Maybe it's not as vague as some of the others on this list, like it does have a specific meaning, but I always just relate to it when I feel that just sadness. It's therapeutic to me to feel someone else singing about their trauma. Is that weird? It's probably not healthy, but I would have to have at least one super depressing song. It's just who I am. So now we have to talk about my Megadeth pick. Of course I'm gonna have a Megadeth song on my list, and this was so hard. This was just as hard as the Metallica thing for me. I wanted to pick Holy Wars just because it is just an ultimate thrash metal song, and I almost did, but then I realized I have a different favorite Megadeth song right now that is probably not that predictable. It's so strange because Rust in Peace is my favorite Megadeth album as a whole, but the song I find myself listening to the most is Angry Again. And it's so weird because this was like a soundtrack song from a movie. Forgot the name of the movie. But this one is so freaking catchy. This is going to be like my fun, catchy, kind of dancey song. It's one of my favorite songs to play on the guitar. That first riff is addictive. The chorus is just very melodic. And gosh, Dave Mustaine knows how to write a melody into metal. Not all metal artists are good at doing melody, and he just had this natural knack for it. Yeah, I always pictured Megadeth as just fun. I think Dave's voice has a lot of character in it, and this one specifically, the lyrics make me want to just kick some ass. It's about like getting angry and just like you want to turn into a superhero when you're listening to it. I know that I'm going to need at least one song like that on this list to just have fun with and not take it so seriously. Next up is a lifelong favorite of mine. There was a point that I wanted to get the title of the song tattooed on me, and it is Seize the Day by Avenge Sevenfold. People shit all over Avenge Sevenfold all the time these days, even me. I make fun of myself for being such a fangirl when I was younger, but this song pulled me through so many dark times. There were so many times that I was extremely depressed as a young teenager and just wanted everything to end, and I would go listen to the live in LBC version of this song and it would make me cry every single time. It like gave me this weird hope. So the song, of course, is Seize the Day. Most people know what that means. It's about always appreciating every day of your life and making the most of what you have. It's important to live in the moment and don't always think about what could be or what you could be doing or all the what if scenarios. Just seize the day. Enjoy the day that you're in. You never know what day is going to be your last. And there were so many times in my life I needed to hear this. And Avenged Sevenfold was my favorite band, so it just really struck something in me. M. Shadow's voice on this one and like the harmonies they layer in there is just so beautifully haunting. It has this overall dark tone to it, but like I said, it strikes some sort of hope in me as well. So those are the 10 songs that I would bring if I was stranded on an island. So let me know in the comments down below what your list is. Let me know what you thought of my list. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed it and make sure you subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!